You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the December 12th, 2023 meeting of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
It's Tuesday, December 12th, 2023. It is 6:05, and this is the regular monthly meeting of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals. Ms. Martin, would you do the roll call, please?
No problem. Mr. Jackson,
Present.
Mr. Klinder,
Here.
Ms. Stransky, here, Ms. Vance,
Here.
and Mr. Zimmer,
Here.
and Attorney Steve Hale.
Here. Thank you. We have a quorum. Next item is to approve the minutes from November 14th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
If Attorney Hale has no changes to it, I submit that we approve the minutes.
I did not observe any errors in the minutes.
Second.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Zimmer.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. So the first item of business is our first petition this evening is B-105-23. Steindler Signs. Is there somebody here to speak to this petition? Please state your name and address. Thanks.
Good evening, board. Thanks for allowing me to come back. Tom Steindler, owner of Steindler Signs and Graphics at 10740 US Highway 30, Wanata, Indiana.
So just tell us a little bit about what you're petitioning for and.
Yes, we are petitioning on behalf of First Trust Credit Union on Route 20, 950 East US Highway 20 in Michigan City, Indiana. The subject of the petition is, while installing the monument sign, we are asking to utilize the standards for a pole sign and not to exceed the overall height of 20 feet.
May I ask some clarifying questions? I think.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hale, go ahead.
Mr. Steindler, is there an existing pole there?
There is, that is correct.
And what is the size of that pole? I understood from your documentation it's 21.25 feet.
That is correct.
So you're asking that be the height if you use the existing pole.
That is correct.
If you change the pole, you understand that you would be then limited to 20 feet.
Yes, that is correct.
Am I correct in determining the size of the signs? There being basically two signs. First reports First Trust Credit Union. That would be approximately 62.125 square feet.
That is correct.
And the second one being the Brad Werner and Company sign would be approximately 64.75 feet.
Yes, that is correct.
In the middle, you show a flag. What is that?
That flag is a electronic message center.
I'll ask one last question. This is a question that's going to come up for several petitions this evening. You're asking basically for relief in two different aspects. One, height, and two, sign area, if you will. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that members of the board understands there's a height of the sign, that's one issue. There's a size of the sign, the area, that's a second issue. They have different standards, different requirements. it's my very strong recommendation that for all of these situations, we consider each subject matter within the petition itself as a separate issue, and you make a motion on that. So that you're not moving to accept the entire petition or not. You're accepting the issue of height request or not, and then the issue of sign area or not, and so forth. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hale. So let's listen to the staff report regarding this, and then we'll hear the attorney's report, and then we'll take questions and answers.
Petition recommendation from departments. Fire department had no issues with the request. The water department stated that the sign has height is of no concern to the department. However, the location of the sign is. The department owns a 10-foot easement north of US 20 right-of-way for the purpose of a water main. The new sign cannot be placed over or adjacent to the water main. There need to be approximately 10-foot horizontal distance between the main and the sign front foundation, which is basically the base of it. Sanitary department had no issues, and the attorney will read his report. Planning department's report. Report on petition for a B-105-23, 950 East US Highway 20. The zoning ordinance requirements is that the property is zoned B2 general commercial. The petitioner is requesting a developmental standards variance to install a monument sign utilizing the standards for the existing pole sign and not to exceed 20 feet or 172 square feet. 174 square feet, sorry. The required zoning ordinance states section 14.04 permitted sign sets the maximum height for the business center sign at 6 feet for a monument. Section 1906 general provisions for permitted signs and Article 12 overlay district section 12.04 are all required by our zoning ordinance. Comments. The petitioner plans to continue to use the pole as the centerpiece for the monument. The material and designs will be wrapped around the existing pole, giving the appearance of a monument sign. The planning department's findings. The department recommends approval subjected to the following condition for B-105-23 for developmental standards variance for installation of a new monument sign. The existing pole uses the maximum height of a monument sign shall be 21.25 feet. If the pole is removed, the maximum height of the monument sign shall be no more than 20 feet. The maximum size of the sign shall be no more than 127 square feet for the top and bottom signs. The middle sign shall be no more than 46.73 square feet for the flag sign. A total of 174 square feet per side. The sign location shall meet the requirements of the water department in regards to the water main. The reasoning for these findings. The standards for a developmental standards variance are found in zoning code section 28.11B and are set forth out below in italics with the department's proposed findings. Number 1, general welfare. The approval will not be injurious to the public's health, safety, and general welfare of the community. The proposed monument sign will not be injurious to the public health, moral, or general welfare because the proposed height of the sign will not exceed the existing height of the current sign. The petitioners are requesting a developmental standards variance to allow their new business sign to be at 21.25 feet. However, as a monument sign. The existing pole sign is currently 21.25 feet, and the required sign for a pole sign is 20 feet. The planning department recommends that that the sign will not exceed 20 feet if removed to align with the current regulation for a 20 feet pole sign. Number 2, surrounding properties. The special exemption use will not be injurious to the use enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property value within the neighborhood. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantial or adverse manner. The height of the sign will not impact the sightline of other structures in the surrounding area. The property sits on over 3 acres and allowing a 20 feet monument sign will be proportionate to the lot size and will have little to no impact on the surrounding properties. Number 3, the strict application of the term of the zoning ordinance will result in particular difficulties in the use of the property. Particular difficulties shall result from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the zoning district. The variance shall be necessary for the preservation and the enjoyment of the substantial property right like that possesses by the property owner in the same zoning district. The strict application of the terms of the zoning will not result in particular difficulties in the development of the property given the existing pole, the amount of frontage, and the size of the lot. If the petitioner is requesting to meet the 6 feet requirement of the monument sign, the petitioner will drastically lose visualization of its sign. So ends the planning department's report.
Thank you. Mr. Hale?
One moment.
Sure.
I have a question. The middle sign in the documentation supplied by the petitioner, and he acknowledged that shows the flag, and that's an EMC sign. What is your recommendation as to that sign being an EMC sign?
The petitioner will have to come back for a different variance for an EMC sign because he did not request it in his petition.
All right, I'm prepared to give my report, Mr. Zimmer. You ready?
Yes, sure.
I've had a chance earlier, much earlier, to review all of the notice documentation supplied by the petitioner. I find that the petitioner supplied all of the required documentation, and you're free to go ahead and hear this matter. I've included in my report a long list of the materials and documentation that was supplied by the petitioner. And I've also indicated to you the standards that you must consider in granting or not granting a development standards variance. So that's what we're here about, a development standards variance, but it relates to 2 things, both the height of the sign and the size of the sign. And based on that clarification, it's my understanding that your planning department is approving the existing pole if it can be used because we have a problem with the water main. And if they don't use the existing pole, then the height would be 20 feet. The size, your planning department is indicating that a total signage area would be 174 per side. And that is what the petitioner requested, but the petitioner has indicated this evening that he considers the middle sign is planned to be an EMC, an electronic message center sign, a moving sign. And as that wasn't part of the request, I think the planning department is recommending to you that the approval would only be as to flat two-dimensional signage in the entire face, although the petitioner, under her recommendation, would have his gross footage allowed, gross square footage.
And let me clarify for the petitioner, you will still be able to move, if they approve it, you will still be able to move forward. It won't stop your process. However, the language in your petition doesn't cover EMC. So you would just have to come back and request it. You can move forward with your one-dimensional sign and come back and request for your EMC. That is basically just the gist of it.
Is that the sum of your report, Mr. Hale?
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. So if I understand correctly, then we're going to entertain a motion regarding the height of this and then the square footage.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from board members regarding this?
Yes, Mr. Hale. This is, should be, the way I see it, relatively simple. They're putting up another sign like the other sign. It might be a little bit bigger, but they're putting up a sign where the old sign was. So I guess my question is the verbiage on how we go about making a motion for this. We can do it we make a motion for the approval of the height of the sign as is at the 21.25 feet, and then a separate motion that, I don't know, what do we do, approve for the sign to be put up, but they have to come back to us with additional information concerning the overall area.
So the petition is for height and square footage. That's the only thing you have to address today.
Okay.
There's nowhere in our petition that we received that's had any information about the EMC. But the petitioner mentioned it as of his introduction. So
Okay.
the only thing we're approving today is height and square footage.
I could add to that. A motion could say that you approve it or you disapprove it. But if you approve it, you make that approval subject to condition regarding height as follows. If the petitioner uses the existing pole, the maximum height will be 21.25 feet. That's the height currently. So that satisfies that issue. But if a new pole is used, the maximum height will be 20 feet. That is what our current standards are. And that would solve that in one stroke. If you wanted to go forward further, you could indicate that the maximum size of the advertisement, the print of the area would not be more than 174 square feet on each side, and you could then add a provision that the petitioner shall locate the sign to comply with the requirements and request of the water department concerning the water main. So you've got 3 conditions that would satisfy everything except the EMC, the moving sign.
So in that 174 square feet, that includes the electronic message board area?
It
Got it.
includes a sign, it includes the mapping sign, but it's as what it freestanding. It's not any, it's just like the top one, it's just like the bottom. So the square
Okay.
feet
But
counts.
we're going to ask them to come back for another petition regarding the EMC.
Mhm.
So that should be a condition of the approval of the square footage.
That's it. It's up to you all.
Did everybody get that? If we're going to approve the square footage,
Mhm.
it has to have the condition that they come back for the electronic message board portion. Okay,
Mr. Zimmer, if I may.
yes,
So I got a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
And I apologize. I didn't want to mispronounce your name. Is
Steinler, yes.
Steiner? Okay. So first of all, what's your thoughts about this sign being over the top of water main? I mean, if they need to get to that, you know what that means with the sign.
This sign has been existing. We're not, the sign that is there currently that you've seen for the last 20-some years, it's going to remain there. The pole is going to remain there. The base is going to remain there. Everything's going to remain. All we're doing is basically taking off the existing sign cabinet off of the existing pole, setting the new sign over that existing pole. So we're essentially not moving it any closer to the water main or anything. If the water main is underneath that sign that's been there for 20 years, they're fully aware that, you know, within the rights of the city and easements, anything can happen. So
Okay. And then the second, just so that everybody here understands, if I did my math right, height wise, you're only talking about the 21 1/4 is only 15 inches. If I've got that right. From 20 feet to 21 1/4 is 15 inches. So we're not talking about an extra 10-foot tall sign.
no, again, the existing sign that is there is what this sign will be.
Or I should say, yeah.
Yeah,
In other words, going from 20 feet and being within the limits, going up, we're only looking at 15 inches if we needed to deal with that. Overall sign square footage, you're looking at 109 square feet that you're adding on, is the way I figured that. So that, again, is nothing major. So I don't see that this is that big of a deal. But I did find the paperwork, he does have on there the EMC.
So,
I'll show you.
yeah, see.
well, but she's got to explain it so everybody can hear.
Yeah.
So here, I'll take this, I'll explain it. So in our petition, right here where it says subjected to petition, it tells what he wants, right? And it tells, this same information goes out to the community. However, in this, it doesn't state any information about him requesting for an EMC sign. So if he put it in our petition, remember, we're the only ones that get the petition, so he talked about it, but he didn't request it. So because he didn't request it in his petition that goes out to the community, we can only approve or review what he requests because they're here for public comment, because we didn't give individuals the opportunity to say whether they wanted the EMC sign or whether they did not want the EMC sign, because there's a section that said in your mailings that says what you're here for. And if you look at it, it only says that he's requesting for a 21.25 feet monument sign. So everybody that came out is anticipating that monument sign. However, they're not anticipating the EMC sign.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I just ask, why do you call it if this is a monument sign, why do you call it a pole? I'm just a little confused by the terminology there.
I don't personally, as a sign guy that's been doing this for 40 years,
Yeah.
I call it a monument sign. But your standards call it a pole sign.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Yes, may I ask a question?
Yes.
I note on the materials that you supplied that you have a brick base at the bottom of this. Is that still your intent?
That is correct, to match the building facade.
That's really what makes it a mound or a monument sign as opposed to a pole sign. my mind, and I suspect yours as well. I don't think that's an important matter, whether it's monument or sign or pole sign.
No,
But
It's just confusing to keep using that word because pole to me is just like that, not that. So we should just call it a monument
we
sign.
should, because that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay, so let's tackle the first part, the height. Is there a motion then to approve the height with the condition?
yeah, I make a motion that the height of the monument sign on petition B-105.23 be as it no greater than what it is at this particular time of 21.25.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Do you want to consider the possibility that it's moved because of the water main issue? If so, would you consider adding to your motion that if the new sign is, or new pole is used, that it would be a maximum of 20 feet?
Right. Okay.
Yes, that's fine. I thought that the sign, the existing sign was within the ramifications of the water department's restrictions. But if it wasn't, yes, we need that addition.
Personally, no idea. The water department responded by saying that they have a.
It's not on.
I don't know where that water main is. The petitioner hasn't looked into it apparently, but the water department saw fit to provide that comment to their review of this petition.
Do we have a survey of the property as part of this showing the easement and the sign and where it is, where the sign is in relation to the easement?
I believe I've submitted everything that has been asked, so I don't know if you have that copy.
Well, we wouldn't have requested for the survey
Okay.
for this. I'm presuming from my conversation with with them, the base part is once the base is placed, then it will be by their water main. The existing pole itself is not, but once they put the base on and make it a monument, the width of that base comes close to the water main. So, and he will have to reach out to the water department to have more of a conversation about that, because that's really the only information that they gave us.
Well, I think we ought to have a restriction on the monument to meet those requirements then, that it not be as indicated, but with outside that 10-foot minimum distance.
Are you amending your motion to include a third condition that the sign as converted to a monument sign not be located nearer than 10 feet from the water main and the water department requirements be honored?
Yes, I'd like to amend it according to that requirement.
Before we vote on this, I just want to make sure I understand. So, right? We have to what? All right, but I just have a question though. So is the existing sign on a pole? Okay, and
That is correct.
and we don't know whether that's in the easement or not.
I'm not 100% if it's in the easement. I know that we're about 45 feet off the edge of the road, 62 feet to the center of the road, 28 feet approximately from the electrical power lines.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell me where the easement is. So I'm not sure that I'm comfortable voting for this until we know where this new monument is going to be in relation to the easement. And if the water department feels that we should not be building within the water main easement, then I think we have to make it a condition that this new monument gets built outside of the easement. So I think we need more information until we know what the relationship of this existing sign is to the easement and what the placement of the new monument is in relation to the easement. And will the water department find that acceptable if it's inside of their easement?
Yes, Mr. President, that's what I tried to recommend, that it have that restriction to it, that the monument not be within that minimum area, the 10-foot area of the water main.
So we need to say that it's going to be subject to the review of the water department. That would be the third condition. The final location of this new monument sign would be subject to the approval of the water department. Does that sound okay?
Does. I'm sorry, it does.
Yes, that is what I recommend also, that the water department approve the positioning of that monument. The position, how close it is. Excuse me, Ms. Steiner, can you live with those ramifications?
I have to live with whatever you guys recommend.
Right. So I honestly, we shouldn't even have had the motion yet, right? Should we just withdraw that for now until we have public comment?
Yeah.
Would you just withdraw your motion for now until we have public comment?
Did not withdraw it, I amended it.
All right, but we're asking you, could you withdraw it for now and we'll have it again after public comment?
Yes. Yes, no problem, can do. I will withdraw it.
So the motion is withdrawn for a few moments until we take public comment. Is there any public comment in regards to this petition? Is there anybody watching at home, Drew? Okay.
Hello.
State your name and address, please.
Scott Mellon, 200 Kenwood Place. Several things. I wasn't aware of this before I came here. It's a grandfathered sign. It's a grandfathered pole. We're talking 15 inches. It's de minimis, although it is easy to trim the top of a pole as well. What is the increase in signage area that the petitioner is asking for over what code allows? Is it 10%? Is it 20%? I don't know. If it's
Our regulations states that there should be 72 square feet per side.
So this is roughly 50% larger than code allows. That's something to consider. And that area should include this EMC, should be part of the total area of any exemption, in my opinion. EMCs would probably be LED nowadays. I have a concern with brightness at night. Daytime brightness is one thing, but nighttime brightness I don't know if we have a regulation for lumens, but we have another sign on Route 20. Actually, it's Sonic. I went by it the other day and it was blindingly bright. It really should be toned down. So brightness is a concern. I don't know if that is something here. And on the easements are not an exclusion zone. They realize any monument they build, any brick structure at the base of this grandfathered pole would be at risk if the water department needs to access it. And they've already said they're willing to deal with that kind of problem should it come. That he's already had to come here twice and now probably a third time seems pretty excessive to just change an existing sign. Now, they are asking for some exemptions in size and so forth. But we don't want to overburden people. First Trust has been a good community member for decades.
Agreed.
They should be able to replace their sign, but we have rules, so there's a balance. But this water main thing, given he's 45 feet off the street, the water main is probably not that far. We don't know. But that pole's been there forever. That's already been dealt with. The water main was there, the pole was placed. He realizes if that pole is replaced, he's subject to all the new regulations. This is because it's a grandfathered pole, and I guess you're adding something to the base would be called a monument. Let's not overdo this. We've already spent 40 minutes on this. And they just want to put a new sign on an existing pole. It shouldn't, in my opinion, be quite this complicated. That's what makes signs so expensive. Crazy how expensive signs are. Now I understand why, but those are my concerns. Brightness within the EMC. If we're going to give them an exemption on size, what is the percentage? Is that reasonable? And let's not overcomplicate it too much. Thank you very much.
Is there any other public comment? Hearing none, public comment is closed. So let's return then, if there's no more comments from the board members, let's return to our first motion that Mr. Klinder put forward, which is regards to the height. So there's three parts to it. The height limitation, if it's existing versus new, the square footage. No, the square footage is later. The height limitation is whether it's based on the new height, a new sign, and the condition that the electronic message center gets a separate petition, and the yes, the approval of the water department. So does that work as a motion?
We starting over here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Why don't we have a motion, first of all, to approve or disapprove, or approve is subject to conditions, and we'll work on the conditions.
Yes, I make a motion that we approve petition B-105-23 for a new sign at I forgot where it was. State Street Bank.
The approval is as to the height of the sign to be converted to a monument sign. Is that correct, Mr. Clinders?
Yeah, monument sign at the height no greater than the existing sign at 21.3. I guess 21.25, is that what it is? Excuse me. Yeah. The positioning of the sign must be met by approval of the water department as far as the restriction at 10 feet, as far as the addition of the monument to the pole. EMT aspect of the sign needs to be brought to the zoning commission for reapproval or approval. And the overall sign area be not more than the
We're not doing that.
174 square feet.
The square footage is a separate issue. We're just talking about the height right now. Correct?
All right.
Right?
You could do it either way. You can do it either way.
Put it all together in one?
If there's any further discussion, we haven't discussed the size, but
Right.
we could put it all in one. Should we try and do that?
No, it's too complicated. Let's keep it broken down. So height first. Just as Mr. Klinder said, 21.3 feet, the EMC gets a separate petition and the water department review of the location. Those are the three conditions for the height. That's the motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, so the next part now is about the square footage of the sign. And they're asking for 174 square feet per side, and this is in excess of our allowed by code, but of how much
Well, 72 feet is the permitted under our code for a monument
for
sign.
each side.
So it's approximately 100 feet larger than what is approved. The petitioner, at least I didn't see any calculation as to what's existing. The existing size would be grandfathered in. However, he's changing it from a pole sign, which is different in terms of how our zoning ordinance looks at it, and now it's going to be a monument sign. The last thing I would note is that the planning department recommended approval of the full 173 or 174 square feet.
Any comments from board members about this, pro or con? Anybody?
If the,
I see no problem with it as far as pro mentioned.
Okay,
that's what I was gonna say. If there's no problem, then we
Okay.
should just go with it.
any public comment related to this part of the petition?
There seems to be a lot of, Scott Mellon, 200 Kenwood Place, there seems to be a lot of confusion. They're re-signing the existing pole. They're adding a new sign to the top. Is that correct? And they're adding a base, what we call a monument. So it's not a monument or a pole. It's both. So the regulations aren't for one or the other. They're replacing the existing sign that's there, and they're adding a base to it, a monument. So I don't know how your regulations work. The existing sign is grandfathered unless they make it bigger, and then they need your approval. And if they're adding a monument, what are the rules to that? And even so, like the planning department said, it's a 3-acre parcel. There are no residential neighbors there. It's across the street from a mini storage warehouse. Nobody's going to be affected by it. I think, if it meets design standards, I would recommend you approve it. But there seems to be a lot of confusion. They're just changing the sign on a pole and adding a pretty base around it. It's not all new. It's existing. The pole, anyway, the important part that goes into the ground. Thank you.
You're being redundant.
You guys.
Anybody, any other public comment?
Yeah, this is Tommy Polavic from 1316 Ohio Street. To me, this is almost very similar to what they have at Members Advantage Credit Union on both Woodlawn Avenue and Ohio Street near St. John Road. So I think you ought to just go ahead and approve it. There's a lot of other signs in there that really need to be taken down. That's always been one of my pet peeves about Michigan City. A good example is the Marquette Mall. We have an ordinance on the book under section 19.05 about prohibited signs that were prohibited to display any type of signage advertising a business that is closed. Like the Marquette Mall, why are we still looking at signage for J.C. Penney and Carson Perry Scott and Fiesta Cancun and Hibachi Grill and all the others? To me, that's almost reminiscent of the type of things that you see when you go and you drive all the thoroughfares over in the city of Gary. So we really need to, raise our standards. But I think this, what he's proposing is just fine. Thank you.
There's no more public comment. That period is closed. Are we ready to then take a motion regarding the square footage of this sign? Anybody? Jump right in.
We'll try the overall sign area. I recommend we approve petition B-105-23 concerning the overall sign area of not more than 174 feet as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I will call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Zimmer.
Yes.
Motion approved. Thank you. Give me a call tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr. Steinler.
Yep.
All right, our next petition this evening is B 106-23, Raising Cane's Restaurants. Who's here to speak to this one?
Good evening, Sarah Holmes with HD Group at 295 Luna Lane in Erie, Colorado. Here on behalf of Raising Cane's on the corner of Franklin and Meyer, we are requesting that we have a Raising Cane's wall sign that exceeds the standard allowance. It is on the front elevation. We had previously discussed this in an informal manner in August and would like to try to keep the Raising Cane's standard size. However, we would like to talk to you all fine folks about that. And then we're also requesting a pylon sign. I believe it's about 6 square feet over the allowance, with a small EMC that does exceed the 12 square feet by less than 6 square feet. So that's, I don't know if we have any present, or will you guys have the packets, I believe.
Yeah, sure. Yes, please go ahead, Ms. Martin.
Petition recommendation from departments. The fire department had no issue with the water department has no concern with the size of the sign. However, the placement of the sign cannot be within 10 feet of the water main on Franklin Street and should not be placed over the private fire service. Planning Department's report. Attorney will read his report shortly. Report on the petition for B-106-23, 5000 Franklin Street. The petitioner is requesting a developmental standards variance to allow the proposed signage to exceed the allowable size and height. The required zoning. Section 19.03, signs not required/permitted. Section 19.04, permitted signs. Section 19.06, general provisions for permitted signs. Article 12, overlay district, section 12.01. Comments. The petitioner is requesting to increase the allowable sign on the frontage and requesting an increase in height for their existing pole sign. Once removed, we'll have to follow the regulations of our zoning ordinance. The planning department's recommendations. The department recommends approval subjected to the following condition for B-106-23 for a developmental standards variance as it relates to signage. The total area of the total area of the wall sign on the west facade facing Franklin Street shall not exceed 150 square feet. The petitioner is requesting 170.25 square feet. However, we are recommending 150, allowing 50 square feet increase. The department recommends approval subjected to the following condition for developmental standards variance relating to the pole sign. If the existing pole is used for the sign, the maximum height of the pole shall not be more than 26 feet 2 inches. If the petitioner remove the existing sign, the new pole sign must meet the standards and regulation of zoning ordinance at 20 feet in height. The planning department recommends a total of 82 square feet per side. And the EMC sign shall not be more than 17.44 square feet, with the planning department approving an EMC sign. The sign location shall meet the requirements of the water department regarding the water main. Reasoning for the findings. The standards for a developmental standards variance are found in zoning code section 28.11B and are set out below in italics with the department's proposed findings. Number 1, general welfare. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, or general welfare of the community. The proposed signage will be injurious to the public health, moral, or general welfare because the proposed height of the sign will exceed the existing height requirements. The petitioner is requesting a developmental standards variance to allow the proposed signs to exceed allowable height and size of our regulations. The property is in an overlay district that regulates height to prevent impairing other sightline. The petitioner is also requesting to change the consideration of their mural and to increase of their frontage sign. The surrounding properties. The special exception use will not be injurious to the use enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted, nor substantially diminished or impaired property value within the neighborhood. The use and the value area adjacent to the property will be affected in a substantial and adverse manner. The height of the sign will impact the sideline of other structures in the surrounding areas. All properties within this district is held to the same standards when new development takes place. The petitioner has the option to reuse the existing sign, which is grandfathered into the zoning ordinance. Once the petitioner removes this existing sign, it must follow the regulations of the existing zoning regulation. Allowing the requested height is a drastic deviation of our regulation, and the planning department does not recommend deviating from height regulations. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in a particular difficulties in the use of the property. Particular difficulties shall result from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property that do not generally or other properties in the same zoning districts. The variance shall be necessary for the preservation of enjoyment of a substantial property's right, like the possessed by other property owners in the same district. The strict application of terms of the zoning ordinance will not result in a particular difficulties in the development of the property. The planning department recommended several alternatives that would be successful in eliminating difficulties through this variance process. The petitioner has the option to reuse the existing sign, which is grandfathered into the zoning regulation, as well as removing removing or shrinking any other signage on the frontage to accommodate for the 150 square feet. So ends my report.
Before we go any farther, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm like really confused what we're talking about. I mean, in this packet, there's signs all over the place. Which signs are we talking about? I understand there's the pole sign in the corner that's labeled K, pylon. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, what's the other one that we're?
D.
D?
D.
The painted mural
Yes.
on the west side here. Okay. So it's just those two issues, the pole sign and the sign that's on the building itself.
The pole sign, including the EMC and the sign on the elevation. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Mr. Hale?
Yes, sir. My report for petition B-106-23, Raising Cane's Restaurants LLC, the petitioner applicant. and the owner NNN REIT Inc., formerly Captech Net Lease Realty Inc. Request is for development standards variances regarding their signage. I had an opportunity earlier to review both the original and subsequent notice documentation supplied by the petitioner. They've done a good job. You're free to consider this matter this evening because we have all of the required notification. I've got a long list that I've submitted in my report of the materials that the petitioner has submitted. And I would just note that this petitioner appeared before you before and received an approval in July of this year in petition B-103-23, and there were materials included in that petition that I think are pertinent to this request, and I know that the plan department and I have used those materials, and so they are part of the record in this matter as well as a result of that. The petitioner has provided great signage documentation. That's this. And that's I think, the most helpful document that I've seen in the materials that were submitted. Again, we have an existing sign, and so we have sign height and sign square footage issues. Perhaps you could consider that as one, as separately. And then there is issues about overall building signage. The ordinance requires 100 feet on each side. The petitioner's proposed plans meet it on 3 sides. So it's just the Franklin Street side if you focus on that. And I'd encourage you to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the square footage for the Franklin Street is 170.25 feet and the standard is 100. So it's a 70-foot increase. That's what Ms. Martin advised you in her report. So that's the first issue. The second issue is the height of the sign. They want 30 feet. The requirement is 20. There's an existing sign that's higher. If they use the existing sign, it should be considered grandfathered in. And then we have to consider the size. There is an EMC request as part of this, and you need to consider that. You know the standards that you have to consider. They're the same for our development standards variances. We've had a couple already. It's all my report.
Questions, comments from board members?
Yes, we recommend that if the pole has to be replaced, it must only go to 20 feet. That area is pretty much cleaned out. Is pole gone?
No, sir, the pole's not gone. However, it is not structurally suitable to have a new cabinet placed on it based off of the lack of engineering details that we were able to pull.
So you're gonna put up a new pole? Yeah.
We would likely have to.
Sure, okay.
So the new pole, then the height would only be 20 feet instead of 30.
Could I request that the city provide the overlay code specifically saying that, because I could not find that piece of information?
It's in Article 12, overlay district section 12.01, letter F.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
You are, however, requesting that this board grant you a variance to allow for the 30 feet, right?
Correct.
Then it looks like the existing sign that was there was about 12 feet wide. And now you're going to have one that's about 14 feet wide. So that's where the increase in the square footage is coming from, just for the pole sign I'm talking about. Okay. I guess my personal opinion on this is that the pole sign should be limited in height and size the size of the mural on the building, I don't feel too strongly about that. But how does what was it in your report that you were saying that you approve the size of the extra size of the mural?
We approved a portion of it. They wanted, where is it?
Looks like it was,
We gave them 150. So we increased it only because of the simple fact that we're approving the EMC sign, which is less than 600 feet away from another EMC sign. So we have to, we have to downsize one to increase the other. So if we're going to allow one, we need to kind of regulate them all, because our regulation, we can't just completely deviate from our zoning ordinance. So we have to come into a center. The ultimate goal of the Board of Zoning and Appeals is for us to come to a conclusive medium in the middle. So our zoning ordinance, if we go by our zoning ordinance, the EMC sign wouldn't be allowed at all, because there's 2 EMC signs less than 600 feet away from this sign. So we're giving the EMC sign, we're recommending, excuse me, because we can't give anything. We're recommending that we are okay with the EMC sign increasing the frontage. However, in this district regulates and monitors height, because there's a lot of businesses over there, and all of them have to follow this same regulation. They all have to be at 20 feet, just like we just went through with the previous petition. That 20 feet is important because it's a drastic deviation from our regulation. However, the EMC sign, we're willing to give and go there because they're not that far off from the required size. It's required to be 12, I presume. And so and they have 17.44. The same thing with the frontage. The frontage was large, so we were willing to recommend 150, only taking off what is like 70.25. So it's what, 15, less than 15, that they aren't getting. So we're trying to meet them in the middle as far as our recommendations. So the numbers from what they want aren't off. The height is just something that, like we just went through before, and it's important that we understand these areas that we're in with these businesses, and we're requiring that everybody follow the same regulation. And the same regulation is the 20 feet in these districts. It's in the overlay district, and it's those districts that are along US 20, US 421, those major thoroughfares. Am I right in saying Steve? Always look to Steve. Yeah. What I stated. Did you have anything to say?
well, I guess so we're looking at, again, like on this petition though, we're looking at 2 different things. Is that correct? We're looking at the
Yeah.
pole
Mm-hmm.
out on the corner, and we're looking at the mural on the building. Is that correct?
Yes.
If by mural, you mean the signage on the Franklin Street
Yes,
facade, yes.
yes.
But it's the total signage. There's more than just the mural on that side.
Mm-hmm. So just to break
So
it
when
down.
you're talking about the total square footage of signage on the west facade of the building,
Mhm.
you're looking at all of the signs together.
Mhm.
Okay, and what are you recommending then for this part, just this part of the mural? For the mural, what are you saying you want it to be?
They can resize. They'll have to, I can't tell them what to make their mural. What we're saying is on that side, for every single sign on that sign, we're recommending that they do not exceed 150 square feet. If they want to shrink the mural and increase the other, as long as all signs on that
On the
front,
west facade?
on the west facade do not exceed 150 square feet.
So that's one part. The other part is about the height of the pole out on the corner. And are we talking about square footage of the sign there also? Or is it just the height we're talking about?
Talking about square footage.
The square footage of the sign?
We're talking about EMC.
Yeah.
And we're talking about allowing an EMC with two larger than 12 square feet EMC signs within 600 feet. And if that is going to be approved, I think it's important to the petitioner that you include that approval regarding the 600 feet limitation.
And the square footage is of all the sign together and the oval part as well as the EMC?
82 square feet. That's what we are recommending.
How much?
82 square feet. Our regulations only permit 72 square feet. So
a height limitation of 20 feet and 82 square feet total for all the signage on the pole.
No, just the top sign. That's the top sign, the Raising Cane's one. So that's just like that circle one. And then the EMC, we recommend approval of what they requested, which is the 17.44 square feet of the EMC sign. And approval for it to be installed in an area that's less than 600 square feet from an existing EMC sign. And our zoning ordinance allows 12 square feet, and they want 17.44.
The sign of the round sign at the top that you're saying is 82 square feet, what are they requesting?
98.21.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there any public comment regarding this petition?
Okay.
Scott Mellon, 200 Kenwood Place. Given that they're not on the pole sign, they're not using a grandfathered pole, so they should be subject to the existing overlay if they have a new pole, which is what they need to do. It's already recommended by the planning department to give them essentially a 50% increase in signage for the EMC. 12 to just under 18 square feet is about 50 square feet, or 50% increase, which is generous. Again, I have concerns about brightness with those things. And what you're calling the mural sign, code allows 100, planning board is recommending 150. That's another 50% increase, which is also generous. We are thankful for their investment in Michigan City, and we want them to be successful. As a resident, I would agree. I would agree to their mural sign increase, but I would ask that the pole be regulated to the current standard of 20 feet. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Public comment is closed. Mr. Hale, would you guide us, just so that we can avoid the stumbling here, can you guide us through what should be the motion on this?
I think an appropriate motion as to wall signage would be approval of petition B106-23 regarding wall signage, subject to the following conditions. 1, the maximum signage on the Franklin Street or west facade should be X feet. You fill it in what the X feet should be. The petitioner has asked for 170.25 feet roughly with what we're calling the mural sign and the other Raising Cane sign. You count all the signage, not directional sign, but all the message signs or the name of the business. So those two together are 170.25. Our ordinance allows 100. And your planning department has recommended that it be 150.
Yep.
So put a number in that, and that would be a very good motion for the area issue, the wall sign area issue.
Okay, so let's take that one first.
So Mr. Zimmer, I'm gonna make the motion. This is a motion to approve petition B 106-23, Raising Cane's Restaurant for the west facade mural / sign request. That it shall not be bigger than 170.25 square feet.
Now, that's not what the
And I
planning
understand
department
that.
recommended.
I understand that.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Call for the vote.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Zimmer.
No. Motion is approved then. The next part is the height of the sign and the square footage and the size of the oval sign and the size of the EMC.
May I?
Yes.
I would suggest that an appropriate motion would be for approval of the development standards variance regarding the pole sign as to height and square sign footage be approved, subject to the following conditions. That the height of the new pole to be installed shall be no greater than 20 feet or no greater than X feet. And the total area size of the fixed sign and the EMC shall be no greater than 116 feet. Both the petitioner requested that and your plan department has recommended it. So that's what's requested, I believe. However, as I indicated before, I think that approval should include a specific additional statement that the EMC sign is approved, and it is approved approved to be located within 600 feet of two other EMC signs in excess of 12 feet. If the numbers are 116 feet and 20 feet, the petitioner gets everything requested except this height.
So the motion would be then to approve this petition with the exception of the height.
I think
Height
it
being
has to be
limited to 20.
approval, and you have to add the conditions. I think that has to be part of the motion.
Okay.
Specify maximums is an easy way to do that.
So limiting the height to 20 feet, the total area of the sign, 116 square feet, and then the approval of the electronic message center within 600 feet of another. Does somebody want to make that motion?
All right, I'm going to go 2 for 2 here. A motion to approve petition B 106-23, Raising Cane's Restaurants. The motion is to approve the signage, the road signage, with the conditions of a height restriction of 20 feet, an area restriction of 116 square feet and approval within 600 feet for the EMC. Did I word that correct or did I miss something?
That's good.
Then that's what I'm going with.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Is there a second?
Second, based on with the approval of the water department, 20 foot from the their main. I think it's something that's
10 foot.
redundant, but
10 foot. Yeah.
You're going to amend your motion.
Yeah, I'll amend the motion to accept, to add that in, please. Sorry. That's all right.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder, Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Zimmer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks for coming back so many times. We're glad you're moving forward. Our next petition this evening is B 107-23, Eric and Kimberly Antisdell. Who's here to speak to this one?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is David Ambers. I'm an attorney with office at 601 State Street, LaPorte, Indiana. I'm here on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Antisdell on their petition. This one's a little unique in that my clients were granted a building permit from the city of Michigan City, commenced construction of the building at the rear of their home, 1 or 2 days away from completion, and then they were red tagged, told to stop. We ultimately were able to find out through a meeting with city officials that the building violated the side setback for that area because it was a corner lot. So rather than a 20-foot side setback, the building had already been constructed to a 5-foot setback from the right of way. I submitted several pictures for you, as well as a site plan to show the location on a survey that had been prepared previously by Mr. Thate. We have pictures showing you the quality of this building. We have the specifications that we submitted to you from Menards with regard to the manner in which the building was constructed. They had no problem with inspections until somebody figured out that it violated this corner lot setback. So we would respectfully, one, answer any questions you have, but two, ask that you approve this variance so they can hurry up and get it done before the snow comes.
Thank you, Mr. Ambers. Any questions from the board about this?
So you were actually given your building permit, started building, and then that's when they realized that the setback wasn't.
Yes, sir. The building permit was granted, what, May? If I remember correct. April.
Yes.
No, they received the building permit on May 26, 2023. In late October 2023, after they were almost done, is when they were red tagged and told to stop. We came up, had a meeting with the mayor, some other city officials, city attorney, and at that time, we're told that the building violated that corner lot side setback. And it's in line, if you see the pictures, with the fence that's been there for years. It isn't any more of an obstruction if anybody uses the alley than what the fence was. They cleaned out a ton of brush, which actually increased the visibility even with the building there, because there had been brush growing, almost right up to the street. And, they were a day or two from being done and hopefully can finish in the next day or two.
Thank you.
So it seems like it fell on the building department that they didn't catch it at the building permit application stage. Is that correct? Okay. Any other questions, comments? Any public comment related to this?
I gotta read the petition.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We'll hear the report first and then we'll take public comment. and the attorney's report.
The petition's department recommendation. There was no, fire has no issue with the request, water had no response. The Michigan City Sanitary District take no exception to the petition. The petitioner, they stated that the petitioner is nonetheless advised that per section 98-144 of the Michigan City, Indiana Code Ordinance, building debris such as scrap lumber, plaster, roof material, concrete bricks, and standing dust resulting from construction, repair, remodeling of any building or on private property, or any dirt, stumps, trees, limbs, and branches 4 inches or larger in diameter, or metal materials will not be removed by the sanitary district. I think they just want y'all to know that. The planning department's report on petition for B-107 523 515 Gardena Street. Requested. The petitioner is requesting a development to standards variance for an accessory dwelling side yard setback for a corner lot from 20 to 5 feet. 5 inches. Feet, yeah, at the rear of the property. The required zoning ordinance 04.04 building dimensional requirements following setbacks for R1D, front yard 20, side yard 5, rear yard 20, side street yard 20 feet. The proposed garage was approved by the Planning and Inspection Department in error, and in order to bring the structure into compliance, a developmental standards variance is required. The department recommends the following approval of B-107-23 for developmental standards variance for accessory dwelling side yard setback for a corner lot from 20 to 5 at the rear of the property, 20 to 5 feet at the rear of the property with the following conditions. They must attach the existing garage to the newly installed garage with a breezeway at the length of 10 feet. The reasoning. The standard for developmental standards variance are found in zoning code section 28.11B and are set out below in italics with the department's proposed findings. General welfare. The proposed will not be injurious to the public health, safety, or general welfare of the community. The proposed setback will not cause any threats to the public health, moral, or general welfare of the establishment of the proposed setback. The proposed garage was approved by the Planning and Inspection Department in error, and to bring the structure into compliance, a developmental standards variance is required. The structure will connect and align with the existing gate structure follow all zoning ordinance regulations. Predating the existing structure, the lot was vacant, allowing the garage is an improvement on what would otherwise be an empty lot, in which it would have no effect on the public health, safety, or general welfare. Surrounding properties. The special exemption use will not be the development will not be injurious, to the use environment of other properties in the immediate vicinity for the proposed already permitted or nor substantially diminish or impair properties values within the neighborhood. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantial manner. The proposed setback will allow the structures to come into compliance with the regulation. The garage is being built and is currently aligning with the existing garage and fence line of the property. If the petition had applied for if the petitioner had applied for a developmental standards variance, the planning department would have recommended approval of the developmental standards variance. The development of the vacant lot in a residential neighborhood will have a positive effect on the aesthetic and the property value. The proposed garage will be located on a lot that is adjoining the street, Tilldale Avenue, but it will be in the back of the lot and therefore will have no impact on visibility of automotive traffic. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in a particular difficulties in the use of the property. Particular difficulties shall result from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the same district. The variance shall be necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right like that possessed by other property owners in the same zoning district. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in a particular difficulty in development of the property. The property was built prior to acquiring a developmental standards variance because the petitioner was granted a permit to build the new garage in error. The strict application of the zoning ordinance will require that the petitioner deconstruct their garage, which is over 75% complete, to align with the zoning regulation. Conforming to the existing requirement will cause financial hardship to the petitioner. The petitioner is requesting to align the addition with the existing built garage and fence line. The existing neighboring building and fence sits about 5 feet from the property line as well. Neighbors in areas have garage within 20 feet of the rear lot line. The petitioner should be allowed to enjoy the garage within their rear yard and side yard setback when it does not impede vehicle traffic that is enjoyed by neighboring owners.
For the record, there is an intended breezeway once they're done to connect those two structures. That was part of the original plan.
Yes. And that's what makes it an accessory dwelling and not a garage, per se, but
Not a third.
not a third
dwelling.
accessory dwelling. Yeah.
Mr. Hale?
Yeah. My report for petition B-107-23 petitioners and property owners Eric and Kimberly and Tisdale. They're requesting development standards variance for property at 515 Gardena Street, Michigan City, Indiana. I've had an opportunity to review the notice documentation supplied by the petitioners and their attorney. I find it to be complete and acceptable, and you're free to consider this matter. I put out in my written report a long list of the information that the petitioner supplied you, including lots of documentation. You've heard Ms. Martin give you the opinion of the plan department and going over the standards that you have to consider, which you're quite familiar with. They're found in our zoning ordinance at section 28-11 subsection B. So with that, I think you're free to go ahead and consider this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Public comment?
Scott Mellon, 200 Kenwood Place. This place had a problem with our building department that I was speaking out about with the common council the last couple of months. That aside, these are great neighbors, love what they've done with their house, love their decorations. I'm really sorry this is happening to them. But this is a large garage. It's more of a pole barn. It's nearly, I would say, 18 to 20 feet tall at its peak. It's a nice structure. But it is the only structure that breaks the plane of Tilden Avenue because there's a 20-foot setback. That's a semi-major street. This is a large structure. It's probably going to be metal sided, which is another aside. You allow it, and I don't know why we do in residential areas. When they connect this structure with their existing garage with the breezeway, that combined structure is larger than their house. I think it's out of scale for the neighborhood. This is a standard residential lot. And I have made note of that driving up Tilden, and I couldn't understand why it was allowed to be built to the fence line with the 5-foot setback. Again, I apologize to them. I have nothing against them, and I feel badly for speaking out, but it is the only structure that breaks the plane. Nobody else in that stretch comes out to the 5-foot line. And it's not a small thing. It is a large structure. And thank you for your consideration.
Any other public comment? I have a question. How is it going to be cited?
Metal sided, sir.
Rib side, steel rib. Part of it's already, 3/4 of it's already decided.
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes,
if
sir.
I may, can we get both of their names? That way it's in the records and we know what we're,
I'm Eric Tisdale.
Kimberly and Tisdale.
thanks.
And when they were given the building permit, don't they have to follow some guidelines for the finishing of a structure in a residential neighborhood or no?
No.
Okay. So metal siding is acceptable for a garage. Okay. Any other comments?
Are you going to run any kind of business now? Are you gonna run any kind of business out of that building? There's not gonna be a detail shop, there's not gonna be a body shop, nothing in there?
No.
No, okay,
You just
Just a garage.
hooked
okay,
on my Jeeps,
okay.
my personal vehicles.
Is there a motion then regarding this petition? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Candace and Tisdale, 301 Friar.
I'm sorry. Speak up a little bit.
Candace and Tisdale, 301 Friar Road. I'm here on behalf of the petitioners because, again, this is a gross error in the planning department. These individuals submitted their plans to the planning department, went back and forth over details. Everything that they had done was what was approved. Their permit was approved, their plans were approved, their specs were approved. Then they were red tagged close to finish. It is not fair to penalize the citizens of Michigan City for a gross error in the planning department. So I recommend approval. They've done a great job with this property and this building. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
I have a quick comment. Since they moved into this piece of property, I live around the corner and walk past there all the time. It's been a tremendous improvement to the neighborhood. Not only with your Halloween and your Christmas decorations, but the yard itself, taken care of, and all the improvements you made. Congratulations, a lot of hard work.
Thank you.
Public comment period is closed. If there's no more comments from board members, then I'll accept a motion.
Yes, I make a motion that we approve petition 107.23.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Now call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Zimmer.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And in 33 years of doing this, that's the first time my clients' decorations have been complimented. So, you can teach an old dog new tricks. Have a great night.
Gotta go see that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next petition, B-108-23, Drive and Shine Incorporated. Who's here to speak on that petition? Yes, sir. That was a major goof on somebody's part, for sure. Yeah, I know. That's all right. We all screw up. I know. But this is kind of important, you know?
No.
Good evening, board. I could tell I'm getting older after sitting down for an hour. Was a little creaky standing up.
State your name and address, please.
Apologies. My name is Greg Loring. I'm with DVG Team 1155 Troutline Road, Crown Point, Indiana 4063. We are petitioning for a drive and shine, 16915 Cleveland Road, Granger, Indiana 46530.
Wait, what? Oh, okay.
With me tonight, I have Gabriella Fritas, also from DVG Team. She's a kind of lead designer on the project.
And then also online, we have a handful of folks. Let me make sure. Well, I'll list them out how I have them. I think they're here. We have Jay Stauffer from Vandico Signs, the sign designer. And then we have Brandy Lintz, Brandon Moss, and Haji Tehrani from Drive and Shine. Again, they're here via Zoom. The proposed project, I do want to spend some time, since this is a new project, introducing you guys to the project itself. Proposed project is a Drive and Shine facility with car wash, lube center, and indoor vacuum located at 3944 and 3948 Franklin Street. There's 2 existing property owners on 3 existing parcels at this location. This is the east side of Franklin Street, just north of US 20, the northeast corner of Alderson Court. The total site area is 2.2 acres. This project, if it moves forward, would in fact combine those 3 properties into one with a subdivision plat. The existing site, if you guys have driven by on Franklin Street, is actually the ABC Motel and the Travel Inn properties. Okay. Drew's got a presentation pulled up with just some pictures and stuff, so we'll show you some pictures. Our client, Drive and Shine, is looking to put in over a $10 million investment in this project. So it's a big project for them, and one they hope can be successful. We're here tonight to respectfully request a special use variance for the property and a couple of developmental standards variances for the project. I'll note that the variances being requested are very important to Drive and Shine. In particular, the monument and flag provide visibility for their business in a very crowded corridor on Franklin Street. The wall signage variance is really necessary as a wayfinding thing around the site to people get to the right spot in the business. I'll get to that later too. And then the special use is kind of imperative for the project to happen. From a visibility perspective, Drive and Shine has been looking at other properties further south on 421, which would have probably better visibility than this site. The site is much more crowded with existing businesses, but we do think it would be a great candidate for redevelopment and investment and revitalize the immediate area. As I said, visibility at this site is essential to Drive and Shine's business. Before we get into the technical nature of the special use and variance, we would like to provide a brief presentation of the existing and proposed use of the site. Drew, you got that pulled up, it looks like. Appreciate that. So this is just kind of a project location. The red box is kind of surrounding the project site. So it's the Travel Inn and ABC Motel. It's on the corner of Alderson Court and Franklin Street, across the street from Burger King. I think you can move to the next page, Drew. So the next couple of pictures are just existing pictures of the ABC Motel that's out there in the Travel Inn. They've obviously been there for a while, and as part of this project, if it moves forward, would include demolishing those existing hotel motel. That's just another picture from the rear. So kind of moving on, Drive and Shine has a lot of different locations, Indiana, Michigan. These are just pictures of other sites, kind of what the Drive and Shine looks like. So very nice facade, and on the different faces, we have brick structure, a lot of green glass. As you will see, there is a fair amount of wall signage, which we do have the signage plans that were provided, and I'll get into that later. Keep going, Drew. That's just kind of a bird's eye view from behind. So that's the monument sign there shown is very similar, I think, to the one that's in your guys' packet of what we're proposing to do.
That the size of the facility are the size of the standards?
Can you scroll back, Drew? So they have several different ones that have different things. This one is going to have a car wash, indoor vacuum, and lube center. Gabriella, can you tell if that looks pretty similar?
My name is Gabriela, and on that one in the picture, we have 4 services. In this one in Michigan City, we are gonna provide only 3 services, so it's gonna be a little bit smaller, yes.
Thanks, Gabriel. Yeah, you can keep moving through, Drew. So again, we just wanted to give you guys a look of what things are going to look like. I know there's elevation views from architects in your packet and everything, but you know, picture speaks 1,000 words. So this is very similar to what we're looking to do on this site. So this is a good one to stop on, Drew. So this is our site plan. I wish I had a laser pointer with me. I didn't think I had on that. So north side of the site, the main entrance would be proposed off Franklin Street. Cars will come in, get into a queue, and then there's a canopy structure in the rear where you kind of check in and pay. From that point forward, you either drive into the car wash or you go to the lube center. If you go in the car wash, you drive through, and then you can hang a right, swing around the building, and then get into the indoor vacuum. There's only one entrance proposed on Franklin Street. The other one will be onto Alderson Court. Any questions on the site plan, or do you want to hold for questions at the end? Okay. So moving on, these are just some architectural elevation views. Again, pretty much just kind of showing you guys same thing you just saw in the pictures. So primarily brick structure with a lot of glass as well. This is the canopy structure in the rear for checking in. There's a detail for the monument sign. I think there's actually another sheet for that. This page here, depending if you guys looked at it close or not, this is really more of a key of the signs actually on the building and around the site. And again, because there is a lube center, there is a vacuum, there's the car wash, lube center, and vacuum. Cars need to know where they need to get in and out of to make sure they're going the right direction. So I know that that's one of the variances we're requesting on the wall signs. They've put a lot of these in different locations, and they've honestly learned over the years, you know, what works best for functionality, and it's kind of an evolving product that they're trying to make better and better for everybody. These are more signs, wall sign details. So here's the monument sign. I know this will come up on the variance discussion. We're proposing a 20-foot tall sign right now. I guess I'll probably just jump into that separately when we come back to it, so we can get through these images. If you don't mind, Drew, you probably scoot through at a good pace like you've been doing. This is just the order sign in the background where you check in, so you know how much different things cost. I guess price board sign is what we're calling it. This is the overhead sign as you you pull into the facility, gets you in the right lane, and make sure you go to where you need to go. And lastly, there's just some more pictures of the existing signs that are out there. You know, there's actually 2 signs out there right now for each of the one for each business. We'll just have the one monument sign. That's it? Okay. I guess that's the end of the presentation. So with that, I do want to just kind of summarize the variances we're requesting, and then I'm sure Sylvia will go over them again. I do appreciate, we met with Sylvia and Kyle talked to Skylar a few times. Appreciate everyone helping us out with questions through this process. So again, the first and foremost reason we're here is for requesting special use variance. The properties are currently zoned B2, general commercial. We're requesting a special use variance for the proposed car wash, lube center, and indoor vacuum. The project qualifies as automobile wash and minor automobile service and repair. Each of these is a special use for B2 zoning and would require an approval from the BZA for this use type. There are 2 other car washes located along Franklin Street in this area and are already in similar zoning. These are the Take 5 and Blaze car washes. And then as stated in our findings of facts, we believe this project is permissible, as I just said, for this zoning type if approved, and it will not be detrimental to adjoining properties. Moving on to the individual development standards, we are requesting a 60-foot flagpole height to accommodate a 375 square foot flag. Our understanding is the max building height for this zoning would be the same as the flagpole, which would be 40 feet. I do want to state as far as the flagpole goes, the Drive and Shine owner, Haji, I believe is probably still on the Zoom. It looks like he is. He is an immigrant to this country and is extremely proud of this country and patriotic. He is willing to sign something to commit to only flying the U.S. flag and nothing else on this flagpole. Furthermore, the proposed flagpole height allows Drive and Shine to fly the flag at half-mast without it bumping into things and being ripped. We are very limited on location for this flagpole on the site due to adjoining properties. The large flag and flagpole is really a staple of all the Drive and Shines at their other locations. And as far as location, visibility is very important to Drive and Shine. And if he's going to have a nice flag, he wants as many people to see it out front as possible. Moving on, another variance we're requesting is for the number of and square footage of wall signs. And also the monument sign height and square footage. So monument sign first, the ordinance requirement is 6 foot height, 72 square foot max per sign. And then for the wall signs, we're looking at 10% max of the wall space up to 100 square feet, or max one per facade facing a street or public right of way. What we're proposing for the monument sign is a 20-foot height, 152 square foot per side. Kind of as discussed, visibility is very important to Drive and Shine at this location. Many of the adjacent properties on Franklin Street have very large monument signs in excess of 20 feet or very close to. This includes, but is not limited to, Burger King, Marquette Mall, Franklin Street Family Restaurant, Taco Bell, and Ford. For the wall signs, we're proposing a total of 343 square feet. This includes the building signs and the pricing board. These signs were discussed with the planning department in advance. As I discussed earlier, those are primarily for functionality and wayfinding, getting around the site, making sure you get to the right spot with the car wash. And then lastly, our variances is related to the illuminated electronic changeable message sign. I know this came up on some other petitions. Ordinance states that signs greater than 12 square feet or changeable electronic message signs greater than 12 square feet shall not be located within 600 feet of any other changeable message sign greater than 12 square feet. We are proposing a 40 square foot LED sign located approximately 75 feet south of the neighboring sign to the north. The changeable LED sign will generally have an animated American flag on it with some other basic messages from time to time. The site frontage on this property is only 235 feet, so it's impossible for us to get that full separation. And I'll just say that also, speaking with Drive and Shine, that they were not aware of that requirement and haven't run into it in other communities, but obviously we're here to work together with the city and try to have a successful project. So that's all I have. So I'd pass it back over to Sylvia, and happy to answer any questions after that.
Petition and recommendation from departments. The fire department has no issue with this variance. No response from the water department, no response from the sanitary department. Attorney will read his report. We will start with the special exemption use petition first. Okay. Report on petition for B-108-23 at 3944 and 3948 Franklin Street. They're in a B2 zoning district. The petitioner is requesting a special exemption use for a minor automotive service and repair, as well as a car wash and lube center facility to be located on 3 parcels in a B2 district, B2 general commercial district, excuse me. Required. Zoning Regulation 07.02, use and development of the land and building shall only be for the following specific use unless otherwise provided for in the ordinance by obtaining a special exemption approval when all applicable standards cited in Article 24, Special Exemption Review, requirements and procedures subjected to the requirements set out in Section 14.04A and B, Section 17.03, screen walls, Section 18.04, driveway access management. The current use is established, comments. The current use is established commercial motel or tourist cabin. However, the petitioner is interested in opening a minor automotive service and repair and car wash and lube center facility. Which is only permissible if the petitioner is granted a special exemption use as established in our zoning ordinance in Section 07.02. The Planning Department's recommendations and findings. The department recommends approval of B-108 special exemption use, provided that the requirements of section with the following conditions, that the requirements of Section 14.04 A and B are met. 14.04 exists as vehicle service and repairs, major and minor. 1, all repair work shall be conducted completely within an enclosed building. 2, storage of wrecked, partially dismantled, or derelict vehicles is prohibited unless such storage is required under police or court order. Vehicles awaiting repair shall not be stored outdoors for more than 7 days and shall be screened with a 8-foot high screen wall in accordance with Section 17.03. Number 3, there shall be no outdoor storage or display of vehicle components and parts, supplies, or equipment, other mechanisms except within an area defined on the site plan, which extends no more than 10 feet beyond the building. Automotive wash. 1, the site shall have sufficient road frontage to be able to meet all of the driveway access space requirements of Section 18.04. Number 2, all wash facilities shall be within a completely enclosed building. Number 3, where adjoining and residential districts, a solid screening wall shall be enriched along any common lot line in accordance with Section 17.03. Vacuuming and drying may be located outside the building but shall not be in the required front yard and shall be set back at least 50 feet from any residential district. Number 5, all cars required to wait for access to the facility shall provide stacking spaces fully off the street right away, which does not conflict with vehicle maneuvering areas to access gasoline pumps or vacuums. The standards for the standards for a developmental standards variance are found in zoning code section 28.11B and are set forth out below the standards for a special use exemption are found in zoning code 28.11B. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. And are set out below in italics with the department's proposed findings. Number 1, general welfare. The proposed will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community. The proposed development will not cause any threats to the public moral or general welfare for the establishment of the proposed use. The current use is established commercial motel or tourist cabin. However, the petitioner is interested in opening a minor automotive service and repair car wash and lube facility. The structure will be constructed following the existing zoning ordinance and design standards outlined in the current regulation. The structure will be designed on 3 lots and will provide an adequate amount of acreage and buffering between surrounding properties. The proposed use will continue to align with the surrounding properties and follow all standards established in our zoning ordinance. Surrounding properties. The special exemption use will not be injurious to the use enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity for the proposed already permitted nor substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. Granting this special exemption use will not be injurious as the proposed use will allow a new thriving business to exist in what is a vacant and deplorable property. This will improve the overall aesthetic of the property and the overall value of the community and businesses. The site is zoned for B2 commercial and the proposed development is following the ordinance. Number 3, hazards. The special use shall not be hazardous or to adjacent properties or involves use activities, materials, or equipment that will be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the person or property through the excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, or odor, fumes, or glare. Allowing this special exemption use will not be any more impactful than what the site currently allows on the property. The site will continue to function as a business like all of the surrounding properties. There will not be any increase in smoke, fumes at this site. Number 4, public facilities and services. The use will be served adequately by essential public facilities and service such as highway, streets, police, fire protection, drainage, structure, water, sewage facilities, refuse disposal, and school buses. The use will provide adequate utility, access roads, drainage, and other necessary site improvement because with the change in the use of the property will continue to follow all of the regulation set forth within the zoning ordinance. This site will not impact the utilities, road access, drainage, or any necessary improvements any more than what the site currently allows on the property. Number 5, development requirements. Development of property will be consistent with the intent of the development requirements established by the ordinance for similar use. The development will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be compatible with and not significantly alter the existing or intended character of the general vicinity based upon the county land development plan or ordinance. Approving the special use will not adversely impact or alter the existing pattern of development of the surrounding areas. Development will be aligning with the overall intent of the county city comprehensive plan as well as the city zoning ordinance. The petitioner is not requesting to change the zoning, which is B2. The current use is established as a motel or tourist cabin. However, the petition is interested in opening a minor automotive service and car repairs lube center facility, which is permissible if the petitioner is granted a special exemption use as established in our zoning ordinance section 0.02. Number 6, ordinance intent granting the special exemption use will not be contrary to the general purpose served by this ordinance and will not permanently injure other properties or use in the same zoning district and vicinity. A special exemption use will not permanently alter the pattern of development of the surrounding areas. The petitioner is not requesting to change the zoning, which is B2, which therefore aligns with the use in the same zoning district and vicinity. Number 7, the county land plan. The proposed use will be consistent with the character of the zoning district in which it is located and recommendation of the county land development plan. The requested special exemption use will be consistent with the character and intent as set forth by the existing zoning ordinance and comprehensive land development plan. The petitioner is interested in a special exemption use to utilize the property as a minor automobile service and repair center, car wash and lube center facility. The use is allowable through a special exemption use in B2 districts and therefore aligns with the use in the same zoning district and vicinity. Number 8. Use regulations. There is use-specific regulation contained in Article 14. The special exemption use shall comply with all regulations applicable to the use. Section 07.02 of our zoning ordinance provide that an automobile wash and vehicle service repair, major and minor, are for approval as special exemption use, provided that the requirements of section 14.05B are met as follows. The following requirements are vehicle service and repair, major and minor. All repair work shall be conducted completely within the enclosed building. Storage of wrecked, partially dismantled, or other Darcile vehicles are prohibited unless such storage is required under policy or court order. Vehicle awaiting repair shall not store outdoors for more than 7 days and shall be screened with an 8-foot high screen wall in accordance with section 17.03. There shall be no outdoor storage or display of vehicle components and part supplies or equipment or other merchandise except within an area defined on the site plan, which extends no more than 10 feet beyond the building. Automotive wash. The site shall have sufficient road frontage to be able to meet all of the driveway access spacing requirements of section 18.04. All washing facilities shall be within a completely enclosed building where adjoining residential districts, a solid screen wall shall be erected along any common line in accordance with section 17.03. Vacuuming and drying may be located outside the building but shall not be in the required front yard and shall be set back at least 50 feet from the residential district. All car required to wait for access to the facility shall be provided stacking spaces fully off the street right of way, which does not conflict with vehicle maneuvering areas to access gasoline pumps or vacuums. So ends my report.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to, let's break this down. Can we just,
We have to do that one first.
so we're gonna do the special use. Cool. So what is your recommendation on that, special use?
December.
Yeah, I just want to clarify what we're talking about because I'm very confused. And like you can help.
I want to address the special exception use.
Okay.
There are requirements in my analysis for 2 special exception uses. Automobile washes or the car wash and minor automobile service and repair. Both require special exception use. Both of them refer to different sections of 1405. One is A and one is B. So it makes sense to me in analyzing this because the special exception use is required for the overall project, that you consider those. You can put them into one motion, but you need to reference section 1405 A and B.
07?
I'm sorry,
14.07,
1405 A and B.
1405 A and B.
1405 A and B. A being the repair and lube and B being the wash.
Yes.
That's correct.
And your conditions related to that were that everything is indoors and that there's no exterior storage of vehicles or supplies. Is that
If I may
basically it?
address that.
Yes.
I think it would be easiest just to say that the condition is that they follow the requirements of section 1405 A and B, and that says it all.
Okay, great.
It makes it complicated because I have to read everything. And
Yeah, and we didn't get copies, so we can't.
you don't get
follow
copies of
along.
my report.
Yeah, we should. We always used to do that, and I would like to
I wasn't aware of that. Okay, that's fine.
in the future because it's hard it'd be easier for us to follow along with what you're reading than just try to listen and absorb it all.
This whole year I didn't know.
Okay, so special exception use then is our first part. So is there any comments from commissioner or the board members about this?
Not that, but I have a question as to, is there still houses sitting back there behind where this car wash is going?
Yes, there is.
Off the property, you're saying? Right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, Mr. Hale, do you want to give your report then?
Well, my report is, first of all, my report for petition B-108-23, petitioner Drive and Shine Inc., owners Pranam LLC, Gayatri Corporation, and Pamian Chital Patel. They're requesting 2 special exception uses and several development standards variances for property 3944 and 3948 South Franklin Street, and a vacant parcel adjoining Alderson Court. I would note that I had an opportunity to review all of their notice documentation. It's in order. They've satisfied our requirements, and you're free to hear this. As indicated, there's these special exception uses, which should be handled, in my opinion, first. And I just want to point out that in addition to our standard development standards request for signage and the monument sign, there's a different issue that we haven't handled before, and that's a flagpole. And a flagpole should be handled, I believe, separately. It has different standards. We've gone through the others. We've had a monument sign tonight, and we've had overall building signage requirements. So we can handle those separately probably as well. And it should go fairly quickly because we've been through it already. But I think flagpole should be treated separately as it's new.
Agreed. Is that your report?
That's my report.
Okay, so we're going to tackle the special exception uses first. And you said we could treat them together as long as we reference the 1405 A and B.
Yeah, I think an appropriate motion would deal with the car wash and then deal with the minor automobile service and repair. And you can do it in just one motion.
Okay. I will. So one other question I have for the petitioner is I noticed for landscaping, all you show is grass. Is there any thought put to trees, any other landscaping around this humongous paving project? It's all building and paving. Is there going to be any green space at all?
Yeah, so Drive and Shine is very proud about their landscaping. Because the landscape plan was not a requirement on this petition, we do not have it right now.
Okay.
But for sure, landscaping is what Drive and Shine likes to do because it enhances the property and make it better it's you saw in the pictures with the existing car wash. We do have like the trees and the green space around the building, like some rocks and some bushes and everything.
Okay, thank you. And I suspect that there's some of that is in the code too, requirements for that, right? Okay.
Yeah, once they got that, like design, stuff like that.
Okay, thanks. Is there any public comment related to this?
Oh, man.
Scott Mellon, 200 Kenwood Place. We certainly welcome a $10 million investment to our city, and given the site they have decided to redevelop, we thank them highly for this. They are one Taco Bell away from Castle Ford, which has been Hirsch Ford for the previous 45 years. So that's an auto dealership with both major and minor repairs. And they are one Burger King away from an oil change place. It seems to me that this fits the character of the Strip. As much as I'm not really a fan of more auto stuff, it is where the commerce is apparently. I'd recommend you approve their variances for that. I would point out onto the sign thing that you haven't gotten to yet on their monument sign. It's a new structure. They should meet the code. Otherwise, if we grant variances to every petitioner, the code has no value. If it seems that the code isn't appropriate to today's standards, maybe the code needs to be changed, but that's where we are today. And I think we should be mindful of that. On the third thing, you're going to take up the flagpole. There's already a very large flagpole next door, one Burger King away, next door to them. I don't know how tall that is. I don't know if that's a 40-foot pole or even larger. So this would be in character in the neighborhood to grant them whatever pole variance you get to. But it's kind of a shtick thing too. But we welcome their $10 million investment. It fits the character. Seems like a nice operation. We welcome their investment. But the sign variance, if everything's constantly varied, what's the value of it? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Yeah, this is Tommy Kolavic from 1316 Ohio Street. I know this is in question and answer session as public can comment, but you know, I'm kind of like Roddy Piper. Just when you think you have all the answers, I change all the questions. I want to know, if I was sitting on that board, I want to know if they signed a purchase agreement, how much earnest money have they put down? When's the closing date going to be? I just want to say Drive and Shine is a phenomenal company. I said they're all over South Bend and Mishawaka. I know they got a location in Niles and two in Valpo and Cherville and Crown Point. I know when you go to any sporting event at the University of Notre Dame, they're actually a presenting sponsor for an advertiser for the University of Notre Dame athletics. When they come, I think they'd be an excellent community partner. I'd like maybe just perhaps see them to be a sponsor for Michigan City High School athletics, like advertising the Wolf Den or have Ames Field. They'd be a great place for us to maybe have like a give back night. But I think that I 100% support them going in, getting rid of all these derelict motels that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none, public comment is closed. Any other questions from comments?
There is another.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, good evening. Haji Charani, President and CEO of Drive and Shine. I want to thank you. It's very late, and I know so much of your time has already been taken by these 4 different presentations that you've sat through. I just want to mention, saying that we welcome their $10 million investment is one thing, but that $10 million investment has to work, because without a dark building or lack of desire to put $10 million and invest in what really looks, I know that the pictures do disservice to what the places that we're going to take down look like right now. We're often actually in South Bend. We've been approached multiple times. There's a motel that's next to us, north of us, at one of our sites, and the city common council, the city mayor has approached us multiple times. Can you make sense out of buying this place and knocking it down, because it's a constant nuisance? And so we know what something like that, would be to us, to the city. And of course, we couldn't make sense out of that because we already have built and we don't need to build, another one next to it. This one here, we can. So the condition that we would want to make sure that you recognize that we can make this successful. The flagpole is one thing. I do feel very patriotic about our flagpoles. We have multiple people on our staff that are veterans, and they are absolutely proud of our presentation of the flags. With the lights that we put underneath them at nighttime, they look very majestic. It's really not an advertisement. It's a statement about how much we love our country and how patriotic we feel about it, and the thanking and the appreciation of the people that have sacrificed their lives for making such an amazing country that we live in. So that's one thing. But the signage on the buildings that was mentioned. So we have 3 distinct businesses that we're putting at this site. Every one of them needs to basically be represented with its own signage. And so we're not talking about one business. Typically, as you have it in your own community, you have a standalone detail shop. That's our interior, self-cleaning building. Then there's a car wash, standalone car wash, like the Take 5 that was mentioned. That's another business. That's a separate business. It's self-standing and it has its own signage. And then there's a Loop business, and you have those in your community, not one very close to us actually. And there's a Take 5 that's also close to us, and they are basically having their own signage. So we really have 3 distinct businesses. And when you combine them, consideration should be given, and it's always given to us in any place we've built these, to allow us signage that would represent 3 different businesses, not maximizing it to one conglomerate building, because that doesn't really mean anything. We like to make it convenient for our customers. We put all of them in the same spot. And so, like the EMC that you just discussed earlier today, discussing 17 square feet or 20 square feet within 600 foot of another sign. Well, if you do that to us, the 20 times 3 businesses, that would be 60 square feet. And we're only asking for 40. And so that's basically my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments regarding the first part of this petition? So then, is there a motion to approve the special exception use with the condition that it follow 14.05 sections A and B?
Mr. Zimmer, I'd like to make a motion to approve petition B 108-23 for Drive and Shine Incorporated, the special use exemption with the conditions that it will follow section 1405 A and B of the repair and lube and wash petition.
To clarify, may I ask if you would amend that motion to indicate that the approval is for a special exception use for both a car wash and a small automobile service and repair?
Yes, for the car wash and small repair.
That's their lube business.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I second it.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klender,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Zimmer.
Yes. So the next part then is the development standard variance. And if I understand this correctly, we've got 4 parts to it. The flagpole, the square footage of all the signage, the monument sign, and then the EMC sign. Is that correct?
It's 3. One of them is combined with the EMC sign and a monument art.
Okay. So there's 3, the flagpole, the square footage of the total square footage of all the signage. Is that correct?
The building sign.
The building signage, and then the monument EMC sign. Okay. So let's take it, we can take them all together, but let's have discussion about the flagpole first.
I have to read my report.
Okay.
Y'all can change this if y'all want to, change the structure. I like that. Report on petition for B-10823, 3944 and 3948 Franklin Street. Zoning is B2. The petitioner is requesting a developmental standards variance to allow the increase of a flagpole height and square footage and the number of square foot of their WAF sign on the north and south elevation and a monument sign to exceed the ordinance requirements, as well as a LED flag sign to be 40 square feet and less than 600 feet from another electrical charging message sign. The required is section 15.04, height A and B, section 19.03, sign not required and permitted B, section 14.04, permitted signs, section 19.06, general provisions of permitted signs, D and C. The petitioner is applying for a total of 5 developmental standards variants. Each variance follow a different regulation and have been analyzed individually and given a different set of regulations. But it is 3. It'll be broken. It's a lot of them, yeah. The planning department's recommendation and findings. The department recommends approval subjected to the following condition for B-108-23 for developmental standards variance for the proposed flagpole. The planning department recommends approval of the petitioner's request for their flagpole height to shall not exceed 60 feet tall and the flag to be no more than 375 square feet in petition if petitioner relocates the flagpole to the center of the property 30 feet from the property line. The reasoning is the petitioner did not provide any information to address the impact the pole sign would have on the businesses to the north and or the south. The department recommends approval of with the following conditions for B-108-23 for developmental standards variance for the proposed monument sign. The monument sign shall be no more than 20 feet in total height. The maximum signage area of the monument sign shall be no more than 112 square feet per side. There shall be no LED flag sign or EMC sign or moving sign. The department recommends approval subjected to the following conditions for B-108-23 for developmental standards variance for proposed sign area increase on the west and north elevation. The west, which is Franklin Street, elevation sign shall not exceed 150 square feet. The petitioner shall at its cost provide for a sidewalks that are similar to the existing along Franklin Street before opening of businesses. To the north, elevation sign shall not exceed 120.8 square feet, which was requested by the petitioner. The standards for developmental standards are found in zoning code section 28.11B and are set out below in italics with the department's proposed findings. The flagpole will be the general welfare. The proposed will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community. The proposed flagpole will be injurious to the public general health, welfare, health, moral, or general welfare because the proposed height of the sign will exceed will exceed the height of the existing buildings around. The petitioner has not provided any information on the impact the flag will have to the properties adjacent to it. The proposed monument sign will not be injurious to the public health, moral, or general welfare because the proposed height of the sign will not exceed the existing height of current signs located in an adjacent business. The proposed increase of signage square foot on the north and west side of the structure will not be injurious to the public health, moral, or general welfare because the proposed height of the sign will not drastically exceed the existing height requirements and will only increase a percentage based upon the planning department's recommendations. The proposed EMC sign will be injurious to the public health, moral, or general welfare because the proposed electronic chargeable sign is requested to be 40 square feet. And our regulations state if the EMC is more than 12 square feet, it shall not be within 600 feet of any other EMC sign. The proposed signage is less than 100 feet away, as they mentioned earlier, from an existing EMC, which was the EMC which was approved as a part of a variance process. It's more so a first come, first serve, and the other property EMC sign was approved. The surrounding property. The special exemption use will not be injurious to the use enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity of the proposed already permitted nor substantially diminish or impair property value within the neighborhood. The use and the value of the area adjacent to the property will be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The proposed size of the flag is not only disproportionate to the building, it is larger than any other flag found along Franklin. The height of the proposed monument sign will not impact the sideline of the structures in the surrounding area as it will align with the existing sign. The petitioner has requested for a sign that does not align with our regulation, however, aligns with standards, aligns with other signage along Franklin. The planning department recommending an alternative sign for their frontage along Franklin. The proposed signage is the proposed EMC is approximately less than 100 feet away from the existing EMC, and this sign will impact the sideline of other structures in the surrounding area. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in a particular difficulty in the use of the property. Particular difficulty shall result from the exceptional and extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to properties that do not apply generally to other properties in the zoning district. The variance shall be necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantially property right like the possessed by other property owners in the same zoning district. The strict application of the terms of zoning will not result in a particular difficulty in the development of the property. The planning department has recommended approval of several alternatives that would be successful in eliminating difficulties through the variance process. So it's not report.
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes, sir.
may I address the question of the flagpole?
Yes.
I think that it's important for you all to know that flagpoles are treated differently than pole signs. So we're talking about two different things. I believe that the height of the requested flagpole is not an issue. I'm sorry.
You gotta start off.
I believe that the height of the flagpole is not truly an issue. Section 15.04, subsection A, subsection 10 states that a flagpole specifically may exceed the height requirements of an area by 25 feet. The area in an R2 district, or the height in an R2 district is 40 feet. 20 feet and 40 feet, 65 feet, and the petitioner is asking for 60 feet. To go on, our section 19.03 subsection B that deals with flags and flagpoles states that the maximum size of a flag may be 50 square feet. 50 square feet, and the petitioner is asking for 375 square feet. So I have a question for Mr. Lord, if I may. Sure. I understand that your proposal for the location of the flagpole is in what I would call the northwest corner.
That's where it's shown currently, correct?
Yes, and that's by the existing EMC sign of the neighboring business to the north.
Correct.
Is it possible to locate a flagpole, in the center of your property near the, what's labeled, vacuum enclosure?
I think we could check on that, and Haji can feel free to jump in if he likes. But we were thinking about if this became an issue, asking you guys about what about looking at the south end, kind of near where the curb is. But I'll let Haji jump in if you are there, Haji. But I think our preference would be to keep it towards Franklin Street. But if we can put it in a spot that's, going to be better off for neighboring properties. We have a public road across the way, so there's a little more buffer space versus the property in the north. I think we would definitely, be willing to look at those things and, work with the planning department on that.
Planning department recommended approval of a 60-foot, 375 square foot flag if it were located in the center of the property, that is, along the east-west center line, a little bit off of or set back from Franklin Street. That is by that vacuum enclosure.
Thank you so much for the consideration. Yes, we would not be opposed to looking at that and putting it there. I think they considered that, and there might have been an obstruction in the way. So when the flag is lowered and raised, it needs to be clear of any obstacle around it, like a light pole or anything else that might be close to it. Because during a windy day, when a flag is, taken down, and God knows we get plenty of it from the lake, it would basically rip itself or cause a problem to the near structure. But if there's a place that we can put it that you approved, you're saying basically toward the center, and as long as we have no obstruction around it, that would be absolutely no problem to us to look at that.
Those are my comments about the flagpole.
Okay. So what else? The signs?
Well, if you're asking me, the wall sign areas, two of the elevations, that is the east side and the south side, need our requirements. If you look at the drawings, the west elevation, which is Franklin Street, they're requesting 177.4 square feet of signage. You'll recall our requirement is 100 square feet. And on the north elevation, they're requesting 120.8 square feet. Again, our maximum under the ordinance is 100 square feet. So for the wall sign area, they're asking for two deviations or variances from our requirements, from 177, which would be a 77 square feet difference, and the other one would be 20 square feet difference. The monument sign height, we require 6 feet. They're requesting 20 feet. The EMC I looked at differently, but the signage they're requesting is 112 square feet for the signs itself, not including the EMC, and 152 if you include the EMC. And our requirement is 72 square feet per side for all the signs. Those are the issues.
And what was the planning department's recommendation regarding those?
So for the pole sign, not the pole sign, I'm sorry, the flagpole, The planning department recommends approval of their request if they move it to the center and it's 30 feet set from the property line, so that it won't impact the neighboring businesses. The second is the monument. We recommend the 20 feet because right behind it is another 20 feet monument. Right up the street is another 20 feet monument. Across the street is another monument. We don't recommend the LED sign because it is our regulations say that it can't be 600 feet. It's less than 100 feet away from another LED sign who went through this process and was approved for their LED sign. And they'll just be too close and it will obstruct visualization, which is why we prevent LED signs from being that close, especially that close.
Okay, so the monument, you're suggesting they move that?
No, we're requesting that are approved for the 20 feet monument with a total square feet of 112, a total of 112 square feet per side.
Okay.
And we are not recommending the LED flag sign. And then the last one is the combined, like I said, there's 5 of them, but they're combined. The last one is for the west side, which is Franklin Street, the elevation signage. We're recommending an increase of 150 square feet, not quite what they requested, but it's given a median. And then we're requesting that they complete the sidewalks that are in front. And we're recommending that the north elevation be no more than 120.8 square feet, and they requested 128 square feet. And that's contingent upon them adding the sidewalks.
May I clarify?
Yes.
Sylvia just said that to add 150 square feet, but that isn't what she meant. She meant it would be a total
A total,
of
sorry,
150 square feet
On the west.
on the west.
on the west.
And then the north is 128,
120.8.
120.8. Okay. So then the motion for this part would be approval based on the pole being moved to the center of the property and 30 feet from the property line. The monument would be maxed at 20 feet high and 112 square feet on each side, and no EMC. And then signage on the building, the west side would be maxed at 150 square feet, and the north 120.8 square feet, provided that they install put the sidewalks back.
Put back,
No,
just install.
Install the sidewalks, continuing the, yes. So does that summarize it?
Mm-hmm.
So
He has a question.
let's, are there any do you guys have any questions about any of this? Okay, so public comment?
I have one question.
Yes.
In pertaining to the flagpole location, Haji alluded to it, but we do need to just check clearances like from the that vacuum small enclosure structure that's out there, power lines and stuff. So if a motion is made, I would ask, you could note that location or as approved by the planning department, and we can work with you because we'll try to make that work, best we can. But if it doesn't, we won't put it back where it was. We'll find a place that works for the city.
Okay.
And then may I make another comment?
Sure, please.
So, the sign that's next to us, that's near us, the electronic message center, that one is 40 feet in the air. And our sign being only 20 foot in the air will have zero obstruction to that signage. And really, the EMC is, so we don't have to fly a flag on it. I mean, I think we just show it because it looks so beautiful. So it's not like a replication of a flag, but it is a message center. It is one that from periodically we rotate the message, and we mention the fact that we have whatever it is that we might have that we would be offering. And so it's really important to us to have that. So if we agree to the 120 square foot maximum, could you please consider allowing 40 square feet of it to be EMC? And if you want to say non-motion sign, like it could be something that just says it has to be static, whatever you like to see us do, that would be reasonable and it would be doable. But the EMC is central. We don't have a single location in our portfolio that doesn't have a 40 square foot, and that's our standard size because then we don't have to make different types of messages. Everything that we do is done to fit every message center that we have. And I'm not exaggerating by saying out of the 19 locations that we have, not a single one of them not have this 40 square foot EMC. So please, consider that as part of the 120. If 120 is the maximum, we'll abide by that and include the 40 in that 120.
Thoughts, opinions, comments?
Mr. Zimmer, on this sign that he was just talking about, it's 600 feet is the distance between each sign. Is that what we're looking at?
That's what we require, yes.
Yes, that's what we require. And that's only if it's 12 square feet. So you also have to take in consideration the distance from an EMC and the size of the actual EMC. We have to either approve that he can go from the 12 to the 40. So it's from 12 to 40, and then it's within that distance, the 600 feet. We're approving that he can be within the 600 feet, within less than 600 feet.
What if it was moved to the far south end of the property? Like on the corner of Alderson. Am I saying that right? Alderson and Franklin.
There's nowhere that he can put it. He stated that earlier, the size of the property, there's no way for him to get 600 feet away from the other LED sign. And like I said,
Because it's on the Burger King?
it's on the Burger King, it's on the Korean,
And on the
what is the restaurant?
it's called
The Indian?
It's just called
The diner?
Yeah, the Greek restaurant.
Yeah.
So there's one there and there's one there.
Yes, and they are within,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
Our whole site frontage is about 235 feet, so it's impossible. The other thing too is just to avoid confusion, we tend to put the monument sign as close to the driveway as possible. So that's where it's at. That drive onto Alderson is an exit only, so that's the only entrance in. So that's why we have it shown where it is right now.
And that makes sense. It should be near the entrance.
That's an awful lot of light out there. I mean, that's a lot of light.
I know.
Could I add one?
This is a mess.
Just for the record,
Yeah.
I strongly believe that needs to be looked at through the planning department and changed. Because if you're gonna have new businesses coming to Michigan City, just like this one, but you're gonna say, well, this guy over here's got it, and this guy 4 doors down has got it. That's.
Yeah, but then before you know it, you're gonna have message signs every 50 feet and
Well, I
it's
understand.
gonna be like
Las
the
Vegas.
Las Vegas Strip. Right, and it just can't be like that. That's not what we want
It's
for our
just
community.
too much. It's
It is
almost
too
like
much.
we shouldn't have it at all or whatever, but just a statement.
Well, it's kind of first come, first served. So if those are existing, then they're fine. The next guy that comes along, doesn't get that advantage. So
Could I add one comment?
yes, please.
Yes, thank you. So, it's confusing to me in a way. What this is really saying is that only 1 out of 3 businesses can be successful because there is average of maybe 200 feet, 150 feet of frontage. So if you dictate, I've never seen an ordinance like this before, just so you know, and forgive me, I'm not downing your ordinance, I'm just suggesting. So what we're saying is that you only 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4 businesses can have the chance to succeed, and the rest of them will have to be less visible. We couldn't make this work for us. If there is no EMC, there is no drive and shine. I absolutely would not put it. So we definitely prefer to be on the south side, near Meyer or near the shopping. This is about as far north as we could possibly move, and we only did this because it took us literally a year to find a site that made sense. And these 2 hotels, I mean, we're going to do so much improvements that a 40 square foot EMC, which is really not that big, is really not that big a deal. And this is your city, not mine. But we're not going to build a drive and shine unless we have an EMC. And this is not a threat or a bad communication. I just want to make sure that you understand that we have to be successful. If I build a store and put that much money in it, and it opens up and it goes dark, what's the sense? It's bad for you and it's bad for me. And forgive me for drawing a line, but we cannot not have a message to them.
This is a major redevelopment for that area of Michigan City that is highly needed. This has been a thorn in our side for, just 70 years that I know of. And to say that we would not have something like this come through, and I was going to indicate this even before the last dissertation from the owner, we can't say that we're not going to have this kind of development in town because they got one too many signs or it's a little too big or something like this. That's minor compared to what we're going to get. Yeah, that's my personal feeling. Thank you.
Well, just so that you understand why there is that 600-foot separation requirement is because they do cause a distraction to drivers. And if you have 2 of them that close together, flashing together at the same time, somebody's eye is going to get pulled off the road, and that's when accidents happen. So that 600-foot is there for a reason. And it's not just visual and it's not just aesthetics. There's a safety component involved there. And I also have a hard time believing with an enterprise and a building this massive that people aren't going to get that you're there, and that you're going to rely on some digital readout that somebody's going to fly by in their car anyway and not know that you're there, and either somebody's going to go to your place and use your business or they're not. And I don't think having a sign that's digitally reading out like what today's special is going to make that big of a difference. So that's my opinion on that.
We could agree to do, if that helps you, because I understand your concern about safety. And we've agreed to this in in a couple of other instances where there were discussions about could it be safe if you have like an electronic message center, is to limit the number of times that we rotate it. So it just becomes a sign. And it really is important to us because unlike what you may just have said, it is like if we want to run a special, let's just say we want to have a $30 oil change, which would be below probably even Walmart's price point. How do I advertise that? And it's only going to be good for that day or for 2 days. Without an electronic message center, we just can't. And it's not that we have to rotate it every 30 seconds. And like I said, we can limit. You can say that you can only rotate it every, I think South Bend, there's one of our sites, they said you can only rotate it every 5 minutes. We could do whatever. But if we can't even put a message like that, how do you expect us to survive with that level of investment? Because volume is going to be what we have to drive. And without it, it just doesn't work.
Compromise.
What's the compromise?
The timing of the changing of the sign. He's given a good compromise there. You know, every so many minutes in lieu of a constant change.
We just noticed that Chase Stauffer raised his hand. He's the sign designer, so he may have something to say.
So just so that I know what I'm looking at on this, this drawing of the monument, then, is it where the flag is? Is that the digital part that'll change?
Yes.
And we already agreed that we wouldn't, it's not a flag that we put on there. I don't know why there's a flag shown there. That's not the.
Well, I know, I'm just trying to get a sense of what the size is in relation to the whole thing. Is there, you said there was another comment from somebody?
Fine. Drew, can you let Jay talk?
Yeah, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Jay Stauffer. I'm with Van Atco Signs. We're the sign contractor for Drive and Shine. And I raised my hand a little bit ago when you were raising safety concerns. But these issues have been studied by the U.S. Department of Transportation and NDOT, and the consensus has been that these aren't safety concerns. The driving public is capable of processing these type of distractions just like a squirrel running across the road or any other signage. It really is a misconception that these signs cause accidents.
Thank you for your comment.
I'm really concerned about the light. I really am. And only because the Marquette Mall property is gonna be maybe developed someday again. And then, you know, I mean, it could just be crazy out there. And we can deny them too, but I'm just saying, if you know, you gotta realize the other side of the street's still empty. And if they start putting stores in there, then you have a whole nother situation going.
Scott Mellon, 200 Kenwood Place. It seems to me our sign ordinance might be out of date. Since this was last updated or drafted, LED signs have become the norm. And I take Mr. Tehrani at his word. I would agree. I wouldn't drop 10 million bucks if I could put my standard sign in where I could advertise my 2 for Tuesday special. Brightness is a concern. I think that's something that should be looked at. They are often too bright. I already commented that about another sign. But advertising is fundamental to his type of business. And we can't we don't want to unnecessarily dissuade investment in our city. We want good development. This is clearly a site that is in need of redevelopment. This seems like a solid operator willing to work with the city. I would grant him a special use in this case. I'd legislate the brightness, perhaps. That's one point. Second point, there's already a large flagpole on that block, the Burger King. Based on what I can tell from Google Earth, it's at about a 50-foot setback because it's at the front of their building, which is it's 7 parking spaces plus the sidewalk back. So it's roughly 50 feet back. And their flag is also very large. I would suggest that whatever they want to do here match that size. Two identical flags is kind of neat, kind of like our gateway at 94. 2 identical large flags. That might actually look nice in concert with each other. And there is residential behind there, and I believe their site plan requires a wall built between them and the residential. Probably 6 foot is required. I might ask them to put an 8-foot wall, and I would ask what are their hours of operation. I would assume, I'm guessing they probably would shut down around 8 o'clock. But there is residents behind there, and we should be mindful of the light and noise pollution from this facility. But I would encourage us to work with them. This sounds like a good development. It sounds like good operators. We need that in Michigan City. And I wouldn't like a sign ordinance to get in the way of a $10 million investment, plus probably a dozen jobs. I don't know what their headcount is at a facility like this, but it's probably 12 to 20 people. So again, thank you. Let's not let the perfect get in the way of the good.
But they're on number, I don't know if they'd like to speak. I'm gonna read it.
Yes,
We are?
well, yeah, let's just
Yeah,
get it
this
on.
is Tommy Kolavic from 1316 Ohio Street again. Now, yeah, everybody now they have the digital signs. All these type of message sign where you got to change all the letters on them. Those are all a thing of the past. You know, this great big world has really evolved ever since the National Civic League and Look magazine designated Michigan City an All-American City back in 1965. So we all now need to emerge from the dark ages and get with the times. You know, same thing like I mentioned before. Here you're denying him, trying to deny him this message, this EMC sign, but yet right across the street you got an obvious code violation with the Marquette Mall. You got those big old ugly foreboding marquee signs advertising, you know, closed business like Carson Pirie Scott and J.C. Penney and Fiesta Cancun and the Hibachi Buffet. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Thank you.
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes, sir.
add to this, please.
Yes.
Our zoning code addresses this issue. Under section 1906, which is the sign article, subsection D, subsection 5 specifically relates to ECM. Says electronic changeable message signs illuminated by LED or other similar methods shall be permitted subject to the following requirements. And then one of the requirements is D. And I am not an expert, and so I cannot tell you anything about this, but I would note that it says that the brightness, there are limits on it. And the brightness at night, there are even reduced from 3,500 during the day to 500 at night, from 5,000 in a different district to 1,250 in another. So there's significant drops. There's also some other requirements about how fast you can change the sign, 20 seconds, and similar requirements about light. So there is some already in place, applicable, whether you grant this or not, rules about what they can do with their EMC.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Hale. Mr. Stauffer, would you mind addressing that for us? The brightness and the how quickly they change?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, the when they change is completely user programmable. So the owner can decide to change it once a day, once a week, or once a minute. That's completely programmable. The dimming, this is a Daktronics display. It is a high-end US-made electronic display. It automatically dims as the ambient light changes. It has a light sensor, so during the night it dims way down. During the day in intense sunlight, it increases intensity.
Okay. And I guess the gentleman who gave the public comment before raised a good point. So what goes on across the back of the property here up against the residential neighborhood?
So again, what we've submitted today is what is needed for the meeting, but there's still a lot of design to be done. So as far as screening requirements between the different zonings, we'll do whatever the ordinance says. You know, if that's privacy fence, if it's privacy landscaping, we'll do whatever the ordinance requires of us.
And just so you know, you approve that he followed those requirements. So they, based upon your approval of the special exemption use, that's a part of one of those requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Just to add to that, the existing house on the east side of the property, it is in a B2 zoning. So it is a commercial zoning, but there is existing housing. So per zoning, we are not close to a residential zoning.
Okay.
It is still a commercial zoning around the property.
Okay, thanks. And what about?
A question was raised about the hours of operation. May I address that too? Because I think
yes.
So one thing that we pride ourselves with our team members as well is that we have a family life. We show up at 7:30 in the morning and we close at 8 and we're done. We shut down majority of our lights. We only have some of them on just for safety. After that, after those hours, we call them all night lights versus part night lights. And so we are very close. If you Google us, I would say probably at least maybe a third of our sites are in like we have residential right directly behind us or on the side of us. And that's part of why like our vacuum system, which is the loudest thing that we might have, is always put away toward the street side. Like street noise level is typically measured between 80 to 85 decibel. Our vacuum system is about 65. It's even less than street noise, but we put it on the street side regardless. So that way the things behind us, nobody ever hears it. I just wanted to comment on our hours and the fact that noise is really not an issue with these sophisticated, new generation car care centers like we are.
Thank you, sir. All right, so.
Mr. Zimmer, can I?
Go ahead.
2 questions. First one is, how many employees does this place employ?
Aji, can you take that question about anticipated number of employees?
Absolutely. At any point in time, we would probably have around maybe 10 people, maybe 8 to 10 people working. So it's a 20%, operation.
Okay, thank you. And then the second part of this, if we were going to approve this electric sign, or if there's the thing that's standing in the way now is still the 600 feet, correct? So that's the big deal about this now is the 600 feet. We already know it's the brightness will go down, is what you asked about, and the size of it. So okay, that's all I was wondering. That's all we had left about that.
Is there any other public comment? Anybody else online there, Mr. White? Okay, so public comment period is closed. If there is no more comments from the board, then I think we're ready to look at a motion.
Can I suggest that you take them one at a time?
Okay, so let's start with the pole, the flag pole, the 60-foot flag pole, and the.
Make a motion that we approve for the flagpole to be moved if appropriate to the center, and that it be as the initially requested as far as the size and the height.
I would suggest that we don't say, don't leave it that vague. We should say that we would require them to move the pole and to work with the plan department to find a suitable location.
Yes, sir. I think they indicate that they would do that, and I think that's what they do. We approve of the positioning of the pole by the planning department.
Great, thank you.
So if I may just weigh in, the approval of the development standard variance for the flagpole is that you approve the height of 60 feet, you approve the size of 375 feet, both subject to the condition that it be moved towards the approximate center of the property pursuant to agreement from the plan commission. The plan
department. Okay.
Is that it?
Is that it?
That's it.
Is there a second?
Second.
So sorry. I'll call for the vote. Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Klinder?
Yes.
Ms. Stransky?
Yes.
Ms. Vance?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer?
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. So the next part of this then would be the square footage of the wall signage.
Just to remind you, there's only 2 elevations that require your consideration because 2 of them meet our standards. The first is the west of Franklin Street, Your planning department has suggested that it be no greater than 150 feet. Our wall sign ordinance allows 100. The petitioners requested 177.4. And the north elevation, again, the petitioners requested 120.8, and our zoning ordinance allows 100. You have a motion that addresses both of those elevations, I think. Just plug in whatever number you want.
My motion would be to approve the petition as submitted by the owners of the original submission here without our changes.
That would be all 4 elevations of wall sign.
Yes, sir.
I didn't understand that, Fred.
I don't think that we need to change all of those small sign sizes to the minimum amount of changes that's necessary. They have standards that they have that they requested, and I think we should honor those and go with those.
Is there a second?
It sounds like he want to approve as they presented.
That's correct. I apologize for that. I just feel the whole overall development is what I'm looking at.
So you were saying you recommended 150 square feet. What are they requesting?
7.4 on Franklin Street and 100.8. I'm sorry. They are requesting a total wall sign area of 177.4 square feet on the Franklin Street or west elevation, and they're requesting 120.8 square feet on the north elevation. In both cases, our ordinance allows 100 square feet.
And they're gonna put sidewalks? Or is that not?
That's a different
one, isn't it?
That depends.
Yes,
That could be a condition.
Okay.
Yes, we need to put that in one of these, so we might as well make it this one. So if you want to make your motion, go ahead.
I make a motion, we just accept it as it.
I'm sorry, there's
I can withdraw my motion and somebody else can put forth a new one.
No, yeah, we want, you withdraw yours. You withdraw yours and let's let Catherine.
So moved. I'll withdraw my motion.
I make a motion that we approve this as we have talked about and
As presented.
as presented tonight, and with all the requirements and stipulations, and approve it and let us go on.
With the requirement that they put in the sidewalks.
Yes, and with the requirement that they add the sidewalks. Yes.
May I try and paraphrase that?
Mm-hmm.
Is it your intention to only address the wall sign areas or the monument sign as well?
All of it.
We're just talking about wall signs right
Okay,
now.
the wall signs.
So the motion is to approve petition B108-23 as to wall signage areas as presented by the petitioner, and allow the increase in wall signage area on the west and north elevation, subject to the condition that the petitioner place sidewalks along the Franklin Street side of the property, connecting sidewalks where available, and that they be similar in configuration to what's existing.
Yes.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder, Ms.
Yeah.
Strand,
Yep, sorry.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Zimmer.
Yes. So the final part of this then is the monument sign and the, whether we're going to allow the EMC or not.
And that, if I may,
Mm-hmm.
that involves one, the height of the monument sign. We allow 6 feet tall in our ordinance. The petitioners requested 20 feet, so that's one aspect of their proposal. The next is the square footage per side. Our ordinance allows 72 square feet. They requested 152 square feet if you include the EMC sign. If you do not include the EMC sign, the two signs that are shown in their materials are 112 square feet. So a motion could address the EMC sign and the signage, square footage, and the height. Just plug in the numbers that you want and whether or not you want EMC.
I thought the height was 20 feet. Didn't we talk about that at the last petition?
We granted a variance to 20 feet because all the others were 20 feet. And that's the recommendation of the plan department. And why it's 20 feet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how making this any shorter is going to work. So either we accept it the way it's shown or what, I don't know.
So the true issue is whether or not you're in favor of allowing the petitioner to have an EMC sign. He's by right, he can put in 12 square feet, but he's asking for 40 square feet. I think an appropriate motion to approve it, if that's your wish, would be to approve it at a 40 square feet or not. And to approve it as a sign that's that despite the fact that there's other EMCs within 600 feet, I think you should mention that in your motion. And then you can just determine what size you want the overall monument to have and the height. And I guess if you're going to consider restrictions on the EMC, that you can throw those in as a condition.
I want to make a motion that we allow the petitioner a 20-foot height monument sign. Is that what it is? Monument sign, right? And my pen ran out of ink, so I didn't get their total number of square feet that they requested. But that's what I want to go with. And that they have the EMT sign at 40 feet, square feet.
If I may paraphrase that, please. The motion would be to approve petition B108-23 as to the petitioner's request for monument sign variances to include approval of a 20 feet high sign with an EMC sign of 40 square feet, and additional signage to bring the total, including 40 square feet, to what? They're asking 152, and the plan department asked for 112, which is the size of the two signs that are existing, not including the EMC. I don't want to. You suggested the whole thing? Mr. Pender?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the total then would be 152 square feet. That's your motion.
That's correct, sir.
And what's allowed? Or what were you suggesting? 112. Total, including the EMC,
No, the total.
without the EMC.
That subtraction, that's what it equals.
Was that actually a motion? All the way through, or was that just an explanation?
It's a motion.
So you were saying no EMC is what you were suggesting.
I'm suggesting that the motion that Mr. Klinder made was to approve petition B-108-23 as to petitioner's proposed monument sign as submitted, including a height of 20 feet, a square footage per side of 152 square feet, and approving the EMC sign of 40 square feet included in the 152 square feet. And to allow this sign and grant a variance of the requirement that a variance of the requirement that there be no EMC if there's a similar large EMC within 600 feet. Go down a little bit, I'm sorry.
Can you repeat that?
I agree that that's what I said. Or meant to say.
And so the Greek restaurant sign is an EMC also.
Well,
I'm gonna second it.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Zimmer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. We're gonna go out to the building.
All right, now back to the agenda.
Is there any old business or any new business this evening?
No old or new business for the planning department.
Okay. Any other public comment?
I just wanted to thank you so much for the consideration. We promised that we would make you proud of what we're gonna do. Our landscaping is gonna look amazing. I know that was one of the comments that was made. You know, I personally take a lot of pride in our landscaping with trees and bushes and flowers, but we look forward to being a partner in your city. And thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Any more public comment? Just come up to the mic and give us your name, full name and address.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmer. My name's Kelly Newcomb. I'm with 607 Center Street. What I wanted to do is, if you're interested afterwards, I've got a picture of the front, the facade that you guys graciously gave us the grant for. We've made progress. The windows came in. We started decorating it for Christmas today, and we want to thank you guys. And we just wanted to, actually, if you wanted to see progress, I don't know how this works, but it's pretty fun. So
Which project is this?
607 Center Street. Last month, you guys voted and got us
They're Beach Village.
the facade.
And
Okay,
Anyway, I don't want
All
to
right.
take, I know it's been a long night, but I
Yeah,
just
okay.
wanted to thank you guys.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so public comment period is closed. No? One more. Oh, geez. Okay.
All right, this is Tommy Kolavic from 1316 Ohio Street. Mayor-elect Angie Nelson Deitch mentioned she doesn't want anybody serving on more than two boards or commissions. If you're serving on if you're serving on more than two of them, you need to give one of them up. Other than that, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Kwanzaa, a Happy Hanukkah, and a Happy New Year. Goodbye.
Same to you.
With that, then we're adjourned until January 9th. Thank you.